about how parking requirements dictate how almost every building you can imagine, looks and operates and just stuff like that.
It's one of those things I never would have considered
familiar?
at all, but now it's like it makes sense.
Yeah.
You familiar with that subreddit? Fuck cars. It's just
I am familiar.
I thought you might be. They're like the opposite of you. It's just
no.
everything...
I do like to draw a line between car enthusiasm and car dependency. Like I love cars, industry. The exciting cars, but I think that we as a country, as a state, the state I live in, as a city, Los Angeles, subsidize heavily car people at the expense of non-car people, and I think that needs to stop. And I think that we need to have, not everybody wants to be in their fucking car all the time, and there's people who can't afford cars or don't like cars, don't want cars, and we could do a lot by having a solid public transit system so that not everybody had to be in their car all the time, and we could develop infrastructure that didn't revolve around cars. That has been done very successfully in other places. And so I like those fuck cars subreddit and the all of those people. I engage with them. And I think a lot of what they're saying is right. And I encourage them to not demonize car enthusiasts as opposed to, because a lot of
that's
us
what they're doing
feel that way too.
I just see, sometimes I see a meme and it's like the utopia that would exist if we all just got on a bicycle, and it's like, come on, man, come on. I don't know about that. And having seen how gun legislation can be when you give them an inch and them taking a mile, it's I don't like the idea of giving anybody an inch on automotive stuff either. We need to saw those catalytic converters off too. Just run.
Well,
run
look,
straight
there's certain places that are very, very dense, right? That are very dense, Lower Manhattan, Venice
Chicago.
Beach, where I spent a lot of time. The specifically the waterfront in Chicago on the river. There's places where if you made a few blocks here, I'm not talking about the city of Chicago, right? But I'm talking about a few blocks here and there, you made them car-free zones or heavily car-restricted zones. I think you could drastically improve the quality of life in those areas, paired with other changes, more green spaces, more walkable type businesses. And these places, by the way, a lot of them are the most valuable real estate in the world. Lower Manhattan, London, downtown Paris, these are Venice Beach, Santa Monica. These are really, really expensive areas. And I think that a lot of people would prefer they were a little greener. You'd put parking on the outskirts. You wouldn't force people to sell their cars, but I think that in select pockets, we could have areas that would be improved by, you have to park 2 blocks further away and walk in.
Maybe.
I'm not
depends on the city too.
Outright banning of cars, and there's certainly places in America where they're not going to build public transportation to get from Kansas to Montana. Car. There's suburbs. You need a car. Okay, no one's saying take that away, but in the most dense parts of our cities, you don't necessarily need to drive. The expectation that you should be able to drive directly door to door and find cheap or free parking right in front of your destination at any hour of the day is pretty unrealistic. And yet that's the expectation that we've become accustomed to.
I haven't really heard the solution though, right? People say, oh, I don't want cars around here. Let's just block it off. No cars. Are you going to walk? Is that what your plan is? Do you want me to walk in New York City in a business suit in July? Because I
don't want you to walk across the whole city.
I want you to choke on a dick and die.
Yes.
New York City has an excellent public transit system. People take the subway all the fucking time.
Have you been in New York City when it's raining? It's awful.
Yeah, I have. Well, okay. It has a poorly maintained but very well designed public transit.
I can't even.
That's a different story.
Taxi. I can't find the train. It's a fucking problem. What's that called?
Well, that
Good intentions.
He said it's got a poorly maintained but well-designed system, and it's like that counts for nothing. Imagine if you said that about your nuclear reactor.
Well, what if we actually allocated those funds that could come from the money that we're subsidizing drivers in New York City
I'm
right
like,
now?
fuck, everyone hop on those electric scooters and bicycles or something as the last mile. Maybe.
Those are great. Those are great too.
I like them,
As long
but
as they don't
I haven't
become
lost
litter.
all my athleticism yet, just some of it. And but there are people who have. So what is my answer for them?
Scooters.
I mean, a little bit of that too. A little bit of those scooters too. A little bit of golf cart type vehicles for urban areas.
Uber drivers.
And dude, public
That's
transit,
cool.
like using my city as an example, St. Louis, it is unusable. It is the most dangerous place to be. Like, it
cut
is
your finger off or use public transit in St. Louis for the next 10 years.
Taylor, you need to step up and straighten out
this finger, left hand pinky. You cut it off like John Wick.
All right, probably left hand pinky, because I'll definitely be killed if I
cut my finger off too.
I want Taylor in an electric golf cart just saying, bring it, motherfucker. See, this place was dangerous until I got here. You know who's in danger now? You. They
have this train from like this area in like Brentwood or Kirkwood all the way down to the city. And I had never been on it. And it's like a well understood joke that like you don't ride the public transit in St. Louis because it's a dangerous city. Like, people hang out on public transit just to wait for it to get not crowded so they can rob you. And when the Blues won the Stanley Cup, that was the most crowded place of like Blues fans. It's because like everyone was like, we're all here, so we're safe. And so like it was so packed that everyone's like, this is kind of nice. Like, but that's the only time.
And then he realized you had no wallet when he got home.
Yeah, and then you realize you have no wallet, and then you arrive there, and you're like, "Oh, this isn't as convenient as driving. This is worse. This is worse than driving."
MARTA's great in Atlanta if you're going somewhere where it stops off nearby. When we were going to watch the hockey game,
what did you say was great? MARTA.
MARTA's an acronym.
That's that's the
down here they say it stands for Moving Africans Rapidly Through Atlanta.
Jesus Christ.
That is, I'm sure, the intention of the
is that not what it stands for?
I don't think that's what it actually stands for.
Metro Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority. Actually,
yeah, but I've been on it. It's the first thing. I promise. It can be scary on there at night, but like you said, there was something. It felt way safer after a sports game. Everybody's got their jerseys and hats on. It's like, okay, A team's here. Where's the B team? And then you'd find them and like, all right, they're over there. They look a little scared, honestly. There's a lot of us. We're good. We're good. I've had that exact same experience. I wouldn't go on MARTA if it wasn't for something like that. Scary. I don't have a gun.
I mean, on this fuck cars subreddit, frankly, like, so much of this is like, what if we took this beautiful, pristine park and put up Soviet-style block communist buildings for living? And it's like, well, we'd ruin the park. But then people could walk from depressing gray building to depressing gray building. Like,
I mean,
like, no, that's like,
there's people that want to bulldoze every green space and put apartments on them, and that's kind of dumb too. But I mean, there are non-communist ways to. Yes. The bottom line is like incentives and disincentives both work, right? Like right now, our country incentivizes buying a bigger, heavier vehicle than you actually need. There's a way that if you own a small business and you buy a vehicle that has over 6,000 pound gross vehicle weight, you can depreciate the entire value of that vehicle in the first year. And yes, sometimes that's used for construction equipment, and sometimes that's used for a semi-truck for someone to earn a living. But also sometimes it's used for G-Wagons and Rolls Royces and Raptors and people who commute to work in fucking Super Duties and all kinds of ways. And I'm not saying that if you want to buy a farm tractor that you shouldn't be able to depreciate that as a business expense. But, we could change the incentives to incentivize people to buy the lightest, most fuel efficient vehicle for the task, as opposed to something that is specifically heavier than a certain amount. They're the electric Hummer. You can depreciate that. It weighs fucking 9,000 pounds. I mean, think about the amount of extra wear and tear you're putting on roads and bridges and tarmac and everything by driving something like that around. And someone's going, yeah, it's electric. I'm not burning fucking gas. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, you are wasting everything by driving that. And we have chosen to incentivize that as opposed to incentivizing the use of smaller, lighter vehicles where possible.
Did you guys see this kerfuffle? There's a subreddit called anti-work.
Yes,
and
I've heard of this subreddit, but I haven't seen anything from it. So what's
a mod from the anti-work subreddit went on Fox News with Jesse Waters, who I don't know how popular he is on Fox News. I've seen his face before. Like, he looked familiar when I watched the clip. It's only like a 3-minute clip, but it is so fucking embarrassing and difficult to watch. Like, the person and the whole subreddit of anti-work, apparently, I don't really follow it. I just know of it. But apparently beforehand, they said, like, they took a big poll. And we're like, do we want our mods going on an interview in media and Fox News or whatever? And apparently the overwhelming response was like, no, don't do that. That's a terrible idea. This is a horrible, horrible idea. Don't do that. And this person went on and did it anyway. And like, you hear Fox and you think like, oh, are they going to like throw a sneaky bee little question or try and throw them off their game or throw salt into the mix? No, it is the most basic questions, and this person just keeps digging themselves a hole. So they, first of all, they get on the screen. Wait, hold on.
Are we watching this or just you described
no,
it?
we can't watch it.
Can't watch. Okay.
YouTube. Okay. Yeah, I'm just describing it. You can find it's like a 3-minute clip on YouTube. But the first thing you notice in the 3-minute like side by side is you've got the Fox News host, good looking guy, well dressed, clean background. Obviously, he's a news host. The other person, the mod of anti-work, is not looking at the camera. They're slumping, sitting over to the side. Their bed isn't made behind them. It is messy. The lighting isn't right. And it's just embarrassing to watch. And so you see this guy, Jesse, asking questions, and Jesse Waters, the host, being like, so anti-work, like, first of all, just how old are you? And the person was like 30. It's a trans 30-year-old. And they're like, okay, and what do you do for work? And he said, she was like, I'm a dog walker, 30-year-old dog walker. And and Jesse Waters is sitting there like, oh. And how many hours a week do you work? And she was like, 20 to 25 hours a week. And he's like, and you think that's too much? You think that's just far too much? And she was like, not really answering that. But instead of, and I understand the frustration of people like who see the need for having conversations about workers' rights, because that is very important. But what they got was someone who literally said, this is a quote that this person said, laziness is a virtue. Laziness is a virtue if you're not engaging in like the capitalist overstructure that is trying to force you to work. And it was cataclysmic how bad it went for him. I'm trying to see. I wrote something else down about what the fuck. Oh yeah, like he then asked her like, okay, so you work 20 hours a week dog walking. Do you have any aspirations outside of that? And she was like, I want to teach philosophy. And it was like, dude, this could not have gone worse and looked worse. It is so uncomfortable. It makes the whole movement of those people look like they genuinely, it made them look like, despite any arguments they have that are totally reasonable about workers' rights, it makes them look like a bunch of children who are like, I don't want to work. And so I went there I don't really go to that forum, but I went and looked around, and like everyone, like 100% of comments that weren't removed by these mods were like, this is absurd to send a single 30-year-old dog walker who works 20 hours a week. By the way, someone
aspiring philosophy professor.
Aspiring philosophy professor. Like by the way, this person also had comments in their like history that they were posting on the Reddit that was like, I mean, I do work. I work 2 hours every day, 5 days a week. That's 10 hours a week dog walking. That's not 20 or 25. And it's like, oh my God. But like every single person is like, this is a disaster. They have humiliated the whole movement. Like do you think it would have been better if they got a single parent who's working 2 jobs and is in insurmountable debt, and inflation is causing problems? They can't afford a home. They're hemorrhaging money. Somehow they could afford a lower amount on a mortgage, but they can't afford, or they can't afford a lower amount on a mortgage. They can't afford a higher amount on rent.
Off schedule to fill in for other people with no compensation. Someone who's who is scheduled to work, say 9 to 5, but they routinely ask her to stay till 8, which brings daycare troubles. Like this
Maybe
is what
lives in an area of the
anti-work.
country where it's really expensive to buy a home, can't afford a home while they're doing this. They're just trying to make ends meet, trying to get a better future for their kids, and they just can't.
Wages have stagnated for 30 years. Meanwhile, home prices are skyrocketing. There are so many angles. There's so many angles you could take on this that it's like, that's a good point. That is a good point. But instead, and like the response from the forum is exactly how you think Reddit would handle it. All of these anarchists, so-called, or a lot of the mods are so-called anarchists. They immediately just come down like fascists. Like, no, you can't say that. You can't say that. They had another one of their mods post like a little update to everything. This mod described themselves as a long unemployed 21-year-old. That just means you've never worked.
Yeah, right.
Like that just means you haven't had a job yet. And so like, and now they're like, the mods decided to put this person in it is just wild to see like the mods of a forum, which is like, all you're doing, you're just fucking mods. You're not leaders of any movement. You just make sure that people don't say shit that's against terms of service. For them to foist themselves and be like, we'll do interviews on mainstream media, to not be smart enough to realize that accepting a mainstream media interview from Fox as an untrained mod on a Reddit forum, they're gonna clown you. I know, Fox News, they're so stupid. No, they're professional news anchors. You think any of us could go up there with Anderson Cooper or fucking the right-wing guy Tucker? You think we would get trounced by them because they know the medium, they know the format. They're not doing free speaking stuff. They know the right way to phrase things.
It might have helped too. Like there could be a team in that earpiece that they're listening to.
Yeah, that's true too. Something tells me there was the only sounds he was getting in this interview in that earpiece was just howling laughter. Yeah, because I guarantee he had some like gotcha questions. They didn't even get to it. The big gotchas were, how old are you and what is your occupation?
The whole team's really enjoying this. You take this from here. You got it. We're just gonna watch. Ask her about the dogs. Ask her how many dogs she walks in a week, and then do the math.
These are some pretty long dog walks.
How many? Yeah, right. 25 hours a week, right? Wasn't that what it was?
That was the lie. The reality was 10.
All right. All right. Let's say it was 25. Let's say you're walking each dog for an hour. So that could be 25 dogs if you were dumb enough to do each dog one at a time. That's like a premium service, right? We've seen dog walkers before, right? They look like a kid holding as many balloons as he can hold. There's bunches of them.
They charge by the pound, because I could walk 10 unruly Chihuahuas, but only one unruly Great Dane.
Yeah, they charge more for different classes of dogs. I think you got like an XL dog. I
didn't realize how absurd dog walking is as a thing. You get a dog and you're like, I'm going to take this animal home and I'm going to take care of it. But I'm not going to do even the basic minimum of giving it a walk. I'm going to pawn that out. I'm going to farm that out to someone else to do this for me because I want the dog, but I don't want to do even a walk. That's insane.
In my opinion, the dog walk hirer is out working, right? So the dog walker is letting the dog go to getting a bathroom break during the day, right? I think that's the scoop.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think normally so. I doubt it's like you're relaxing on the couch and like, have the help do it.
I don't know, man.
I mean, some people I'm sure are, right? Like, but probably not most. It's probably like a daycare for dogs kind of thing, which is the cutest thing ever, right? Like when my friends like send their dogs to daycare, they take a picture of the dog like during the day, and they give them a little report card, and they're like Roscoe didn't really enjoy Josephine, but he's best friends for life with Roger.
My wife is attempting to talk me into a dog right now.
There's like a picture of him and Roger, and Roger's like a basset hound, and Roger's like, oh, we're friends now. And it's like, oh, shit.
Those are so funny. And then you realize it's just some like drunk employee. It's sitting in the back 15 minutes before you arrive. Fucking Scooter loves to dance. What else? Alex is a Republican. Just making shit up.
Your dog had a MAGA hat on.
Dylan is suspended from daycare for racist behavior. And he pooped on the ground.
He stays away from all the blonde dogs.
He assaulted a chocolate lab. It's a hate crime.
Oh, God. Speaking of great lungs, you sent me that link earlier from that huffing subreddit. There's a subreddit dedicated to people who huff shit, and the guy was showing that he was like, basically they post pictures of like weird shit they've been huffing, and he's like, yo bros, you tried this yet? And it'll be like PVC pipe glue, and I'm like, yeah, it does smell good actually. Every time I've ever done any PVC work, I'm like, man, that smells nice. Then some guy will have like acetone for auto paint or something like that, some sort of paint thinner stuff. Taylor posts one, and the guy has Black Widow Killer. And he's like, yo, 12 hits of this, and you see the doo-doo man.
Yeah, it's all misspelled, but it says every time 11, and it's a picture of Taro Spider Killer, that big orange can. And it goes,
not do this, people.
Every time 11 huffs fine, 12 huffs poop man come. And then it didn't write anymore after that. I guess the poop man came. And did you scroll to the other picture, Kyle?
No.
There's a picture of what he's huffing, and then you hit the right arrow, and it's a picture of a poop-stained mattress. And so this guy is clearly huffing so much spider killer that he's shitting himself. He's like an alcoholic waking up the next morning and being like, oh, why do you always take that 12th puff? Like,
it's kind of like that one. It's like after 2,500 milligrams, the Hat Man does not respect gender pronouns.
Yeah. Yeah, the Hat Man, he's the Benadryl.
Robitussin.
Yeah, Benadryl. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Robitussin is a real drug that people use if they can't get Tussinex. Or I guess Robitussin is not the real drug version of Tussinex, right?
Used to be, maybe, I think.
I was talking to a friend of mine, like, who was way too deep into codeine and Tussinex and that shit in like his early mid-20s. We were just having a game night the other night, and he was talking. He's like, oh yeah, it got bad. And there were times, I would go in and I'd go to my local clinic, and I would say, I had the whole thing rehearsed. I'd say, I have dark green phlegm. I've been coughing so much my throat hurts. And then when the nurse would say, are you allergic to anything? I'd very casually go, oh yeah, my main doctor said I can't have something called codeine. And if you can't give them codeine, that means they have to get Tussinex. And he's like, and it was great, dude. We had a great thing rolling for a while. I'd go and I'd get this giant bottle of Tussinex, and then I'd bounce around to different clinics like a couple times a week. And then eventually he got banned from one of the clinics because they realized, like, this dude isn't fucking sick. There's no way you have the flu again, sir, for the 11th time in 2 months.
So Tussinex, that's the stuff that lets you see the...
Tussinex is like Robitussin, but it has no acetaminophen in it, I believe. And so it's like it's like Vicodin. I think it's liquid Vicodin, and that's an opiate. An opiate. Yeah. Right. So it's like instead of taking the pills, you're getting the liquid. And I don't know much about this class of drugs. The way he explained it to me was that like a tiny sip of that, so like 5 milliliters or something of that Tussinex, was equivalent to a much larger amount of actual Vicodin pills. And so he and a couple guys I knew would bounce around.
Okay, it's something else. I think what it is he was probably telling me he was allergic to acetaminophen, and they were giving him so he could
that must codeine. Be what it is. Yeah,
because codeine is the best drug. Like it, I understand. It's so good. It makes you a little itchy, but you get used to that.
I think I'm not having a typical experience. It makes me get like a throbbing kind of headachy type thing. And as you know, I get into it all the time. Yeah, it's the worst. And I get off it as fast as possible. I prefer pain.
You might be like me because I'm allergic to a lot of painkillers. Like I have a bad reaction every time. Like I just get like headaches. I get nauseous, like a bunch of stuff.
Weird. It's a good thing to be allergic to. Those things are dangerous.
Is it? What if you're ever burnt?
They'll just give you.
What if an RPG explodes on you and you're like, no, not the good stuff. I'm allergic.
I'm allergic.
Give me something non-habit forming. Give me something fourth-degree burns. That marrow is cooked.
It's like fucking Two-Face. Fuck me up.
Oh yeah. It's worth being a bit itchy if that's the alternative. No, I'm scrolling through this huffing community top all time, and it's so funny. Like, I know some of these people are trolling, obviously. The same thing with the gang stalking. But that tarot thing, the poop man come, that was the top all-time post there. The second one is just the guy who says psych ward, and he's in a psych ward.
Why do they give him a phone in the psych ward?
Dude, dude, mugshots of paint huffers.
Those are fun. Can you roll some of those up, Zach? Just find us some good paint huffing mugshots, because they genuinely are hilarious. I remember a Cops episode, and the cops roll up, and there's this guy with spray paint all over his face, and he's limping, and they're like, "What happened, Otis?" He's like, "Goddamn kids threw me off the bridge again." These kids came along and found this poor old homeless man so out of his mind on paint he couldn't resist, and they tossed him off a small bridge.
What? I'm a Warriors fan.
He's ready to steal Christmas.
He does. Dude, that's fucking Temu.com, Jim Carrey.
Oh, witness me. I like this guy.
What color would you be? What color would you get, Taylor?
What the closest to my beard color?
Oh, I bet you could huff real good. I feel like a beard would allow you to like keep some residual. Yeah, you might get overdosed quickly. The black guy almost like you almost can't tell. You know,
dude,
what I mean?
That guy's
joke.
He's like, give me Hickory Brown. Do y'all have Krylon Hickory Brown?
Is there something about metallic paints that makes it better? Everyone's choosing them.
I think it's just because the people that did it with the beard and they did a natural color didn't get caught.
That's exactly it. That's
true.
It's that the people who are stupid and awful enough to huff gold sparkle paint are also very much likely to get arrested while huffing gold sparkle paint.
You know what else?
I'll do that to the president.
I bet genuinely that price is an object to these people. And so they're probably getting the cheapest spray stuff they can. So like maybe house color or like wall color is less or more expensive than gold.
I choose to believe they go to
Let
Home
him
Depot.
up some paint. Jesus.
They go to Home Depot, huff right in the aisles, and try to walk out unnoticed.
I'm sorry.
You can't prove anything.
Wait, excuse me. Where's plumbing? Like,
they genuinely do that all the time. Mitty, my friend that worked store security for a while, they'd catch a guy and there'd be like 3 or 4 empty cans at his feet, and he'd be trying to kill the fifth. Or that there was one guy that like hid in the bathroom overnight, like stood on the toilet so they didn't notice, and they found him in the morning, passed out in a pile of keyboard dusters. By the way,
that's what Steve-O used to do. Yeah,
keyboard dusters have this additive in them, as I'm sure many products do, that tastes so horrific. Like there's no high worth that. There's no high worth. You know how if you lick deodorant accidentally, how that weird thing it does to your tongue? It's like that plus the bad part of a pecan. And it won't go away. Yeah, it's terrible.
I've told before, I went to high school with guys. 4 of them got a job working at the grocery store after school solely to do the whippets. It's when, what is it? It's not Cool Whip. What is the Ready Whip? The can one?
Well, Whippet is a brand. There's 2 brands.
Oh, Whippet is a brand?
Yeah.
I think that's what they called getting the air out of a Ready Whip.
Sure. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So. Nitrous oxide in general. What do you call it when you've got like the canisters and stuff? Whippets. Yeah, it's the same thing. You call it the same shit.
Or
right?
nitrous oxide.
It's all nitrous oxide.
You can go... Right? Yeah, I've never done it, but I've seen degenerates on my cop videos, and I've seen, of course, on Amazon. You can go right on Amazon and buy like a Whippet kit. You can buy like all the canisters and like this dosing machine. You like put the canister in and like balloons up with it, or you can like shoot it straight from the machine or whatever. I saw this lady get pulled over. Her whole floorboard was full of CO2 cartridges, and it's like, oh, not CO2, but nitrous oxide, I guess. It's like, what are you doing tonight, ma'am? And they're just like picking dozens and dozens of them. They drive around and do whippets.
Well, you can't do it just sitting still.
Yeah, they're trying to have a good time.
I think it might have been this show. You were talking about it. I can't remember. It was either here or Steve-O. It was one of the two. But they were talking about how on Amazon, like they know exactly what the fuck you're doing because the increments they sell them in, like 1, 4, 24, or like 948 or some shit like that. Like, we know what you're after.
Yeah, I think we did go through the Amazon listing for that, and that there were people in the comments like leaving. Not so well coded
ever. You forget the whole day.
Totally delicious. I had a hangover, or like just stuff that doesn't make sense.
My kids don't talk to me.
Yeah, I hate myself.
Is it a bad drug? Because
4 stars.
I've done it.
What I'm wondering though is it a drug that you would associate with like bad people? Because like drugs definitely have that, right? Like you think when you think of the typical user of insert drug, like. Is that guy an ass? Oh, meth. I think of a white guy every time. He's missing some teeth. His hair's greasy. He's way too skinny.
This is good. Continue with your meth stereotype, and I'm going to do some rapid fire drugs. You're going to fill me in?
Yeah, I don't think I want to play this game anymore.
Yes, you do.
I associate nitrous oxide with hippies. That's when
I associate nitrous as like a party thing for younger people.
Steve Miller concert. Yeah, there was a guy there with what those like. If you were to buy like acetylene, the things. This was like neck high, a good 4 or 5 feet tall canister of nitrous oxide. And he was just selling balloons full of it.
I bet you could turn that around and make so much money. I bet he did. Yeah. I bet that giant tank costs a few $100s, and he's probably selling thousands of dollars worth of balloons. How illegal is that? That's another one of those. I saw a YouTube video the other day, and the whole premise was these are all I tried all those legal drugs you've heard about, and he's like chewing beetle bark. He's taking salvia. He's taking all sorts of different drugs. He did red cap mushroom tea, and it just I knew those drugs were legal, but I didn't think that they were.
Are they any good?
Yeah, that's what the video was about. Varying degrees of either like
what was the most tempting one?
I didn't watch the whole video, but I watched the red cap tea part where he was. By the way, red cap mushrooms are deadly in the right quantity, but he was eating the right quantity and making a tea of it, and he seemed like he was super like relaxed. He compared it to
almost dying,
like Xanax. He said it was like a few Xanax. He said he was like really chilled out, and it helped with sleep. He said.
Speaking of nitrous. And we had, out of nowhere, we mentioned Milo on PKN, and then he came out and because he used to work with Kanye West, and he was saying that Kanye has a nitrous addiction that's being fueled by his dentist. Says that
I did see that picture of Kanye. He's got like the thing on his nose with like double hoses coming out of either side. He looked like the villain from Mad Max Fury Road. He looked like a Morton Joe. He's nice.
Yeah, he does. Find a picture of that. Yeah, this is what Kanye or Milo said about Kanye, and it's next to this picture of Immortum Joe. There's a reason Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, is no longer capable of successfully releasing music or clothing. In fact, there are several reasons, but the most serious and the most recent is his dentist, Thomas Connolly. Connolly got Ye hooked on nitrous laughing gas. It is my belief that Connolly sought to diminish Ye's mental faculties so that Connolly and his business associates could extract millions of dollars from him. Earlier this year, I uncovered the fraud and intervened. Ye, hooked on nitrous, blew up our relationship on purpose by proposing something that he knew I'd have to resign over because I told him so. The resurrection of his longtime idle fantasy of making pornography. Thomas Connolly is a dangerous predator who targets African-American celebrities into whose mouth he puts fake diamonds, as I suspect he did to Lil Yachty. He must be stopped. I filed a complaint with the California Dental Board, the highest board.
They already made it
to that end. Yeah, the California Dentist Board has assured me that they've investigated themselves and they've found no wrongdoing.
I'm looking at that.
Zach, will you add that to our shop real quick? Give us one of those with the
BPAP users catching strays over here. This isn't cool.
Yeah, everyone's making fun. You're like, well, I need it to breathe. I'm not doing drugs.
What are the odds we're thinking that this is real?
100%.
Well, it is Milo, so you don't know.
I saw the picture of Kanye with the mask. I saw a different picture than the one Zach showed that you could see the mask.
Oh, I was meaning about the whole sinister dentist and all that.
Oh, of course. Well, of course he does. Like, where else would he? Yeah, that makes sense. No, I believe all of that. Really?
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
it's
he
Kanye West. Look, that is a picture of him.
There's no way. That's a white. It's a white eye underneath there. That's a woman, or he has the most svelte shoulders I've ever seen on a man. That's like the normal
Kanye.
man behind.
Why would they have that picture there if that weren't Kanye?
Maybe that's the dentist.
Or if that's the dentist, he's a fucking super villain.
Yeah, if that's the dentist, I believe everything. Like, I think he's doing a lot more than what Milo's letting on. If that's the dentist, but yeah, I guess. No,
I believe that 100%. Why not?
Yeah, Milo Yiannopoulos wouldn't just.
Why wouldn't that be true
on the internet?
He wouldn't just make things up online. But I don't know. Kanye, he's gone out there a few times. It's the incredible power of semen retention.
Don't know about this.
Now, see, I'll tweet out for funny Reddits, and every so often, you guys message me with a real banger. And this is like, so no fap is like just trying not to masturbate, my understanding. Just I beat off too much. I got to cut it down. These people are like no fap, but they are writing huge just pages of info about how they feel that they're gaining like superpowers because they're not coming. Like literally they'll be like, and I'm walking around with a kind of Titan energy I've never felt before. And women that before would never give me the time of day, they're coming up to me. They're coming up to me. I had to tell a woman there was one I was reading. I was getting really into this retardation the other night, and I was reading it, and this guy was like, yeah. And I hadn't come for 6 weeks doing semen retention. My skin got better. I felt stronger. God, I'm so horny. But he didn't even say that. I added that. He's taking it too seriously. And he's like, and this dime piece that never would have looked at me. She came up to me at the bar. She started talking. That's his word. Came up to me at the bar. We started chatting. And she wants to come back to my place. And in my head, I'm thinking, am I going to waste my load on her? And so I tell her exactly what I'm doing with semen retention. And I see her eyes go wide with wonder. And I'm like, no, it's not wonder. It is terrified eyes. You're looking into a scared woman's eyes right now.
Not even terrified. Relieved. She is ecstatic. She's like, he told me now. Thank fuck. I don't have to go anywhere near him. We're done. No. We can walk away. End it at the bar.
There's a solution for all this. You explained this, bitch. Listen, I practice semen retention. I will fuck you, but I drink it. That shit doesn't leave the system. It's how you keep your power.
Yeah, he's down it again. Yeah, I drink cum for my health.
My own.
Yeah, here's the beginning of one of their posts. This is an unironic subreddit.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Did you ever wonder when you read? Sometimes I read a subreddit. I'm like, is this a joke? It's hard to tell sometimes. Okay, this is
a real one, and this is 1/15 of this guy's post.
There are 15,878 readers according to this.
Yeah, and 234 users are here now.
Yeah.
Sperm creates life. That which creates life gives you life. I'm reading it the way he writes it. If held, it summons the spirit that enters the body. Man provides the spirit, life from the heavens. Women provide the vessel, body, the material. A female's best interest is to seek the most powerful, potent sperm or spirit. It has been my personal experience. They have an intuitive way of sniffing us out. Quality sperm is like honey, heroin, and cocaine mixed together, an aphrodisiac. Their biological body is designed by God to respond near instantly to such a man with the best quality sperm. Their lineage depends on it. Logic must demand when you hold your sperm, your life, those around you will feel your life. The smell oozes from the pores in your skin. Energy radiates from within outwardly. It's a sexual aura that sends out a bat signal to women that screams, I'm virile! And man, do they come chasing. There's a lot more of this. The quality of life sperm that inhabits the body and determines the intelligence, strength, virility, and future of that child. Females seek this out subconsciously and are totally unaware. I've easily attracted women most guys would call dime pieces, but it's just normal to me. I don't get anxious because the power within me makes me very calm, collected, patient, in control. I have sexual discipline. It is by far the most difficult challenge you will ever take on. And if you do, since most men don't, everything else in life is easy compared to not ejaculating.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to agree with that last point. Unironically agree with that last point. Like literally mention, like Okay, some of my graduate work on looking at the impact of sexual arousal on people, right? Like looking into doing some studies for that, right? But also just like anecdotally, like lifetime, right? Like, like that's like sex drive's a really strong drive in me. Like that's a really large portion of drives that impact me. It's not probably not as big as like food or water or something like that, but it's like, like every time period that's fucking cycles, that's a strong urge. It changes how I look at people. Changes how I interact with women. It changes how I interact with people in general, right? Like I see people differently. Like if I'm walking down a fucking street and I've just come from having sex, right? I see things differently than I do if it's been a couple of days, right? I see women more, they pop out more, kind of like if I haven't had sex in a while. This is literally for me impactful. Like, value judgments aside on that, it's kind of a weird fucking thing to say, but it's a little bit out there for that perhaps. But like, so that element rides with me a little bit, like that element of like, or resonates a little bit with me, right? The idea that there is something to be said about that. Now, the rest of it seems like total fucking craziness to me, but like, I do agree that
the first
it
part
fucks
that
with
had
your
me
conceptions. Really?
How
So I don't know. Like, I think it's something that's, and I bring it up because I think it's something that's often ignored, right? And who has ever fucking told you that? Have you ever heard anywhere from anyone ever, as a male, like growing in your life, that like, oh, your sex drive is an actual thing. It actually has ways in which it systematically changes your perception, and that this is something that you will need to deal with as a human being for all of your life.
I think everybody like has an inherent understanding of that. It's like the mermaid effect, where it's like if you're like a horny sailor who's been at sea with a bunch of dudes, anything with a pussy is going to be like, oh damn, that's great. Whereas if you're around, as this gentleman would put it, dime pieces all the time, you're not going to be nearly as convinced. And he even included a quote from the great Pratik Koli: "The reabsorption of the seminal fluid back into your blood is the best nutrition your body can ever get. So control your lust and don't waste seminal fluid for short-term pleasure."
I think he's absorbing the cum that he's not ejaculating.
Kyle, this is coming from the Pratik Koli.
Actually, I don't know what happens there, Kyle. Like you sound like
your body just stops making more, just like blood.
Does it?
Yeah, if you don't bleed every day, your body's like, all right, let's just maintain this level. I mean, recycle some blood cells, but it's just being held in there.
I thought
stored. Just an Indian guy on Instagram. Stored. This isn't even. I thought he was going to be some sort of Dalai Lama type figure. No, just
am I misremembering this?
The sperm cells. Well, sperm is a very small fraction of semen.
Sure. So you're saying that just the sperm is replaced, you're saying?
Yeah. That's my understanding. And I've done volumes of research.
And I was going to say, it sounds like you have. And out of curiosity, where do you think the no longer virulent sperm goes?
You pee out.
I would say that we, well, I wouldn't know. I've never had any left over.
Sure. I wasn't implying that you had. I didn't mean to insult you as a human being. I understood that you drain that as regularly in this
hourly.
Sure.
Before we move on from this, I have to read this guy's posts of all of his benefits that he's got.
Oh God, is it going to read
Which one is it?
Like Marvel.com's list of superpowers for an individual?
Okay,
it's Women's Reality. That's the name of the post. Hello, all. Over the past year, I've been a lurker on both Red Pill and Semen retention, I guess, subreddits. I've gleaned a lot of useful information out of both. I can attribute a major shift in clean living in the Semen retention forum. There's most certainly a spiritual element in a lot of the text in this subreddit, and I've had some really long streaks, so I do not doubt any of the magic spoken of here. My longest streak was 6 months ago, but I've noticed that usually a lot of the benefits begin at day 20 and slowly grow in power as the streak continues. Most notably, I've seen
Seinfeld episode about this.
Well, that's the contest. But here's his list: a glow to my skin / sexier appearance, more energy, less sleep, increased aggression, willingness to be an asshole when needed, unwillingness to be a doormat, magnetism from both men and women, magical, synchronistic connection between thoughts and reality, a more dreamlike, surreal quality of reality, increased ability to venture into higher spheres of consciousness.
The last one's the best.
I'm not making
this
this
or
up.
DMT.
Oh, did you read the next paragraph? The red pill's also been super useful to me. You lost me.
What is the red pill?
That's a female hating
It's like a pickup
philosophy.
artist. It's like pickup artist stuff, right? where it's like, you got to call them a dumb bitch, and then they'll come crawling back.
I have this idea it's knowing the truth about women. I wonder how they would describe themselves.
Let's see what their number one is. Oh, it's quarantined? Yes, please. I'll pop in and say hi to these guys. There's a lot of people on this subreddit.
Yeah, this is
how to get laid like a warlord. Well, first you need to hop on your horse and storm the neighbor village.
Right, and maybe I'm misunderstanding this, right? But isn't the fact something like you have twice as many female ancestors as you do male ancestors, right?
Yes.
And the idea and the rationale behind it is essentially women on average, it's like half of women on average have one child, and men on average have half. But the way it works out is basically it's 2 to 0 kind of thing.
Yeah,
like that's the way it works out. So
it doesn't make sense to me. Am I?
Yes. Go ahead. Yeah, you're missing it. So okay, so ready. You have twice as many female ancestors as you do male ancestors, and it works this way because basically men, when they do mate and produce offspring, they tend to have 2, and it's not all men get to do this. And if you think of apparently the way this works out is essentially roughly half the men have children, and half the men have 2 children, half the men have no children, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And women tend to average across time have averaged 1 per roughly.
Yeah, it's like an absolute dog of a woman can get laid and have a baby, whereas like a 1 out of 10 guy, nobody wants your warlord.
It's not even 1 out of 10, right? Like with numbers like that.
4 out of 10, I guess, whatever. Yeah.
Right, but the point being that's an actual sexual competition is actually something that's relevant there, right? To some degree, it's an actual drive that would make sense to have some impact of that long term from that. If those numbers are right, and I've heard this numbers quoted a couple of times, and maybe I'm misunderstanding this. Isn't something I know outside of like podcasts, so it is totally possible that that's the case. But it's funny when I see things like this because this feels like this to me. These read as like that group of guys that aren't having sex and aren't getting laid and aren't procreating. When I read these things,
in the version of this, these guys would probably agree because they're not willing to spill that magic seed. That's right. They're powerful now, but not so powerful.
I can't think of anything that I spend more frivolously. It's probably the thing I value least. The way I treat that stuff, it's just everywhere, anywhere.
Same here. Yeah,
all the time.
Was that what was on the refrigerator?
That was what was in the refrigerator.
It's the mayo jar.
That was the smell. I said it was old baloney, but no.
Here's why society won't tell men about this superpower.
Oh my fucking
what? Every religion of all time has said don't beat off. Like, no, but you guys are the hardcore rebels for not beating your meat. Yeah,
is this why those Catholic priests they dress like wizards? Maybe some of them have actually attained a level of wizardry. Here's a question.
Sure.
If it were true that you did gain powers by not ejaculating,
what type of
what
powers?
Is your next move? The powers he just listed there.
What
all
were they?
Sorts of
clean skin, like really clear skin.
You're going to get great skin. You're going to not need to sleep. You're going to be aggressive. You're not going to be a doormat. You're going to be magnetic. You're going to be magically synchronistic between thoughts and reality. And you're going to have a dreamlike surreal quality of reality. This doesn't mean fucking anything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, set all that aside and pick a Marvel superhero.
This last one. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, fire. What was the last one?
I was saying the increased ability to venture into higher spheres of consciousness. Now, if that were a guarantee that I go 3 months retaining all my semen, hoarding the cum for myself, and then I can start astral projecting and seeing out my third eye.
Are you sure
I would at least spend a week on that higher plane until I got bored of it, and then I'd come and be like, well, I've seen it, experienced it. It's probably a boring plane of existence.
You could just do some drugs and keep coming, though. You know what I mean? Like drugs are cheap. Trust me.
That I'm going to make a post on this subreddit saying that. Why don't you guys just beat off and do drugs?
Yeah, try drugs, meditation, and sex. Those 3 things will cure whatever this is you're doing.
Yeah. No, you're wrong, Filthy. This isn't NoFap. NoFap, I think, according to this post, says you can fuck and come. This is no sperm for your lady. Nothing at all.
I believe with maybe there's some sort of tantric technique for it, for orgasming without ejaculation. Now that if these guys were for real, that's what they'd be all about. No. All right, so that's ejaculating without using manipulation with your hand. What I'm referring to is orgasm without ejaculation.
So these guys are all using dildos on their prostate.
No. Again,
no to who?
Orgasm without ejaculation.
Yeah, like I don't know what your memories are for masturbation, but I remember that as a kid, being young enough.
That was before you could produce ejaculation.
Before ejaculation, yeah.
Yes, but I'm talking about as an adult man.
A lot less
I feel like this has become difficult for people to wrap their heads around.
I didn't know that stage existed. Fuck.
Really? Right.
Really?
Sucks. I remember that. I remember being.
I got so much beaten and done prior. Before, like
were you pissed, Taylor? I was pissed when I became old enough that like ejaculate was part of that.
Oh, I still remember the first time. I was like laying in my bed at like 11 or something. Like 11 or 12, I don't know. And I was
that was a good way to get to sleep.
Yeah, dude, that was the best way. It was like, oh, it's bedtime, and I was like, oh, you bet it's bedtime. Time for me to go play with my dick. And it was. I remember once just doing it in my bed, playing with my dick. I was 11 or 12, and then finished, and I felt all the wetness, and I was like, oh, guess I just peed a little, and then went into the bathroom. It was not pee. It was white and gooky, and thank God I just wiped it off and went back to bed and didn't like walk into my parents' room with just a lot of Spider-Man looking goo.
Mom, I don't know what this is.
I think it's ectoplasm. Are we haunted?
All I know for sure is it's salty.
On Reddit, do you ever go to relationship advice? It's one of my favorite.
Not on purpose, but I catch some posts.
Let's see what retardation they've got going on. It's called relationship advice.
I guarantee you, like 80% of the advice is break up or divorce this person, and it will be like,
oh, it says banned.
There you go.
Wait, banned?
It says this subreddit was banned due to being unmoderated. Just relationship advice.
No, it's here. There's an underscore, maybe.
There's an underscore. Okay. This one is here. Sorry, continue. I need to find something.
It's just a frustration I have. I don't think it's a great story, but they always suggest breaking up with the person. And they could be like married with 4 kids, and the husband will, I don't know, say, hey, I think you need to lose some weight. They're like, get rid of him, girl. You deserve better. And it's like, let me see your picture. I want to see.
The most recent one
friend, 18 male, called me a monkey. He's white and I'm not. How do I handle this aftermath? So is it just people making up nonsense?
Yeah, that one sounds like the rest of Reddit. I don't know. Like if he called her a monkey and he likes her, I need to know about this tone, like where his head is.
Son of a monkey.
Yeah, right. To me, that's a terrible thing to say, but we tell jokes, I don't know. I need to.
Yeah, context and like what was going on.